Live. Hey, we're live. What's going on there? YouTube, how's everybody doing? I'm Jack Neary. This is Shot of Jack. Face Fantasy Football Edition. Okay, so we're going to try to get you guys ready because it's draft season. We're going to try to get you ready for your drafts. I want you to understand what players to take, which players to avoid. Today, we're going to be setting you up with running backs. Okay, I'm not giving you top tier today. That'll be another video. But today we're going to give you 28 through 14 or 14 through 28, whichever way you'd like to look at it. I'm starting at the bottom and we'll climb our way up. Okay, these are the most important running backs, by the way, in my opinion. Okay, obviously you have your top tier, right? And then you have your other echelon. But you want to be able to get steals in your fantasy football draft. You want to know who to take in rounds 6 through 9. Maybe you could steal a guy in round 10. Maybe you could find a diamond in the rough in round 11. Stuff like that. That's what I'm going to cover here. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into some running backs. All right, at number 28, I've got the rookie that got drafted to Philadelphia. He hasn't moved far. He's gone from Penn State to Philadelphia. His name is Miles Sanders. Okay, Philly has had difficulty at the running back position. They brought in Jai. He was injured. They brought in Jordan Howard for minor draft compensation, and maybe he is the answer. But they brought in Jordan Howard, after they drafted Miles Sanders. From what I'm hearing right now, Miles Sanders is looking like a stud at camp. He's probably going to be their bona fide starter. He could do everything. He's not as physically gifted as Saquon Barkley, but I mean, if you check out some highlights, he sure reminds you of a guy that could take the ball anywhere from 20 to 25 times a game. Miles Sanders will be mid-season the bell cow for Philadelphia. Jordan Howard will be either, he'll spell him a little bit, but he's going to be an afterthought. Jordan Howard's, he's only okay. He has probably the worst hands a running back has ever been gifted. He can't catch anything. And that's going to become a problem eventually. So I like Miles Sanders at 28. For all you Eagles fans out there, I think he's going to be he's going to be phenomenal. Miles Sanders, you're going to see at least 5 plays this season to where you're just sitting back in your chair and Miles Sanders just jumps off the screen. That's how good he is. At 27, I have David Montgomery. Okay, and an opportunity, means a lot in the NFL. Okay, David Montgomery was drafted to a Chicago Bears team who wants to be able to move quickly. They want to be able to run the football. One of the teammates in camp has described his knowledge of the game, that of Saquon Barkley's. I'm not saying that athletically he's Saquon Barkley. He's not. But David Montgomery is going to be a nice addition to this Bears team. He's going to have opportunity to run early, often. The only question mark with both of these rookies is, do they wear down a little bit late? The NFL season is a little bit more grueling. Obviously, bigger, better athletes than what they were accustomed to in college. I like David Montgomery at 27. Where I would take these guys, by the way, let me pause for a minute. These are the guys that I would take probably if I was in like round 7 or 8, where you guys might be thinking quarterback. Here's what I want you to think about. Okay, you could take a Baker Mayfield, you could take a Carson Wentz, you could take guys of that caliber in round 7, 8, 9. You could do that. Or you could wait on a quarterback like Jared Goff or Dak Prescott or even Kyler Murray till rounds 10 and 11. Okay, and you could pick up running backs. David Montgomery is going to go a little bit higher. He'll probably be going around 5. But Miles Sanders, you could probably get him in round 7. So you're looking at value here. Miles Sanders is going to be phenomenal. Okay, so, and he might not start right off the bat. So if you start your draft off and you set up your running backs, right? Let's say, I don't know, let's say you get lucky and you draft somebody. Let's say you draft James Conner. Okay, and then you draft if Dalvin Cook slides here, something like that type of combination, right? And then you end up taking, I don't know, let's say you go Sony Michel. You wait a few more rounds, you fill your wide receiver gaps, and then you put somebody in like Miles Sanders. Now, Sony Michel has an injury history, right? And maybe he gets injured again. Stuff like that. That's what you want to be thinking about during draft day. All right, up next I have Derrius Guice. Okay, I have Derrius Guice at 26. Okay, and he was drafted by the Washington Redskins. I know that generally you want to take a running back that's in a good situation, that's on a great football team, that's going to be playing with leads. Here's the other a possibility that helps a running back. A starting rookie quarterback. Dwayne Haskins is most likely going to be the starter in Washington. If Keenum doesn't look great, Colt McCoy's not going to be the guy. If all things are the same, you take the guy with the highest upside, and that's Dwayne Haskins. So if they all get it about the same, it's going to be about Dwayne. It's going to be Dwayne Haskins. And Dwayne Haskins has had more wow moments so far in camp, to the good and bad. Wow, he hasn't hit that receiver. Or, wow, that was 60 yards on the dime. Not perfect. Okay, but a running back that can really bell cow status. Listen, I know he got hurt last year, but he didn't really hurt any fantasy feelings because you knew he was hurt just before the draft. He got hurt in preseason. And Derrius Guice is not going to be, a workload guy off the bat. He might only get 13 carries, right? 12, 11, but eventually, week 6, week 7, maybe week 5. There's no, the knee's feeling good. He tells coach, I could take a few more carries. Could be up to 20 carries. Could be up to 18 carries. My whole point is that game script is going to allow him to run the ball. Okay, the Redskins are in a 13-10 game. They like to play those tight ones sometimes. Gruden's going to run the ball. He's not going to get silly, put Chris Thompson in there. Adrian Peterson might take a few, snaps away from him. But Derrius Guice is going to be the bruising back there. And a little bit of patience will pay off. If he's going real high in your drafts, don't take him. I like him in the 6th. These 3 guys, by the way, right? Derrius Guice, David Montgomery, and Miles Sanders. Okay, they are insurance policies for running backs that could get hurt. So if you have, let's say you take a Todd Gurley, okay, and you're going to be dealing with that knee issue eventually. That knee is degenerative. It's arthritic. It's not 100%. It never will be again. I don't care what the Rams are saying. I don't care if Todd Gurley doesn't want to answer it. He doesn't want to answer any questions. That's fine. We're just trying to figure out what your health is like. If you take a Todd Gurley, you can also double down with the Derrius Guice or David Montgomery or Miles Sanders. Make sure you get one of those guys in those later rounds because they have an ability to produce close to where he was. Okay, I'm not saying no one's going to give you 3 touchdowns a game, but these guys can really be great Band-Aids. All right, up next we have Mark Ingram II. Okay, Mark Ingram, we know, was on Saints for a long time. He's no longer on the Saints. He's on the Baltimore Ravens. We know all the Ravens want to do is run the football. Okay, the Ravens want to run the football, and they have the easiest run schedule. So that's very interesting because, if all the Ravens wanted to do was pass it, and they had a very tough pass schedule, you wouldn't be able to pass it. If all they want to do is run it, and they had an impossible schedule, they wouldn't want to run it. But their run schedule is the easiest out of every team in the NFL. So if Mark Ingram, let's say Mark Ingram's a good running back. He's never been a bona fide number one. The Saints have always kind of wanted to look on or look away from him. But he's going to a team that wants to run, and they have the easiest run schedule. I can't stress that enough, because that could, I know I have him, ranked maybe a little low, but at 25, 25th, you could take him higher and be confident that the Ravens want to run the ball. They'll be good enough. I don't believe in Lamar Jackson, by the way. I don't believe he can throw to win games. I'm very sorry to the Lamar Jackson truthers out there. I think he needs the run. I think he knows he's inaccurate. I think his ceiling is Cordell Stewart. Okay? He can get some things done and surprise you sometimes with accuracy, but I don't think he's going to be consistently accurate. Okay, that's why Baltimore wants to run the ball. He's best at running, so they got a running back, that doesn't have a ton of mileage on him, by the way. So Mark Ingram could have a great season. Again, another sleeper guy that not a lot of people, he's not a sexy pick. There's nothing sexy about Mark Ingram, and he went to Baltimore. You'll probably shut half of their games off because they'll be boring, but they'll be running it because of the schedule. Harbaugh is very smart. He's a good coach as well. He plays to his strengths. Okay, so that's Mark Ingram at 25. A lot of things to consider there, though. He could move up. Up next, at 24, I've got Tevin Coleman. Tevin Coleman had a really good year last year in Atlanta, and now he is paired with his old coach, Kyle Shanahan, in San Francisco. Jerick McKinnon has had swelling in his knee. I know they paid Jerick McKinnon, but he had an ACL tear, and now he has swelling in that knee again. So you paid a guy that I don't think is going to be the starter. I think it's going to be they'll try to get him on the field eventually, sure, but I think it's going to be between Matt Breida and Tevin Coleman. Tevin Coleman is the more explosive athlete. Kyle Shanahan's going to find a way to get him in space, and I just think Tevin Coleman somehow, some way, maybe not the most consistent of ways, but I think he finds a way to 6 or 7 touchdowns, maybe 8. Shanahan's going to get him in space, and I think I also think Breida's valuable. I think that Breida's going to be your bruiser. I think he's going to take a lot of lumps, and they're going to try to get Coleman in space, and Coleman's going to produce this year. Someone has to produce in San Francisco. It's not a bad franchise. You have a good offensive-minded coach, and Tevin Coleman can fly. You get that guy in space, he can flat out sprint. He's one of the fastest running backs in the NFL. He just gets overlooked, and maybe he doesn't have the body, for 25 or 23 carries a game. But if he's giving you 17 touches a game, 60 yards and a touchdown, that's valuable. I'll mark him at 24 all day. I like Tevin Coleman. Speedster out of Indiana. He moves. All right, who do we have next? We've got Lamar Miller at 23. Look, I know Lamar Miller's boring. Boring Lamar Miller. Right? But he's on a good offense. Deshaun Watson's a good quarterback. DeAndre Hopkins is great. You've got Will Fuller and Kiki Kuti as your other wide receivers. They're moving up. D'Onta Foreman, they just released this week, right? So you thought that maybe Foreman was going to pressure Lamar Miller for the job. He's not. There's nobody else there. It's Lamar Miller. That's it. I know that, the practice squad guy moved up and the third. Look, D'Onta Foreman had an attitude problem. That's what the reports read. If he had not had an attitude problem, he'd be the number 2. So the guy that's behind Lamar Miller currently is the number 3, just in the number 2 spot. They're never going to play that guy. Maybe if Lamar Miller needs some water or roll an oxygen tank over to him. But Lamar Miller's going to be the bell cow for the Houston Texans. It's something that we just need to sit back and accept that he's going to get 20 some touches. He's going to be good for 80 yards. And every once in a while, he's going to break one. So I think Lamar Miller at 23 may have him too low. After that, I thought D'Onta Foreman was going to eventually take over the job because he's a supreme athlete. But now he's not. So now it's the Lamar Miller show. What's he good for? 9 touchdowns, 1,100 yards. Is that too much? I mean, it seems like that's what he could do. Maybe what is he going to give you? He'll give you 400 receiving yards. That's super valuable. Nobody wants to draft him. Look he doesn't look great anymore. But Frank Gore at the end of his career, serviceable. You could play. I love Lamar Miller as a flex. I love him as a starter. You get a top tier running back and you top tier wide receiver. Wait till like the 6th round to pick up Lamar Miller. He might be moving up now though, but get my point. All right, before Lamar Miller, should I say, at 22, I have Tariq Cohen. I like Tariq Cohen because I don't believe that David Montgomery is going to just get 25 carries. Okay, he's a rookie, and he is, he's going to have protection issues, and they really want to spread and move that offense. Okay, David Montgomery could be phenomenal, but Tariq Cohen is a dual threat. Okay, James White, for what he is in New England, is a great running back, but he's really valuable in the passing game, much as Tariq Cohen is. The difference is that Tariq Cohen is a much better athlete, and he can get in between the tackles. I think, when you're talking about Tariq Cohen, think Darren Sproles. That's what he's probably going to give you 700 through the air, and he might give you 400 on the ground. And, that's 1,100 yards. I don't know how many touchdowns he's worth, but if you're going to tell me that I'm going to pick up a guy and he's my 22nd ranked running back and he's going to give me 1,100 yards, I'll take that. And Chicago wants to move the ball. And let's not pretend that Mitch Trubisky is this MVP award-winning quarterback. He's good. He needs work. And I think that putting athletes around him make him best. So I really like Tariq Cohen for, I like him as the upside too. He's got great upside. Maybe he can get in between the tackles more. Maybe Montgomery helps turn him into maybe a slot wide receiver. He's a gadget player. And gadget players can win you weeks. He could blow up for a week. At 21, I've got Phillip Lindsay. And before his injury last year, he was wearing that chip on his shoulder. He was a Colorado kid, and Denver overlooked him, and he came in, and he's a speedster. I think that if and when healthy, Phillip Lindsay will always be that player. He's always going to be fast. He's always going to run 100%. He just looks great on the field. He really passes the eye test. I'm sorry that the injury happened to him, but he's that guy that's going to work to come back. And I think when he comes back, people are going to want to ease him in. And then all of a sudden you turn around, you're like, that's 14 carries. Lindsay's got 80 yards again. Should we take him out? No, we need the win. Flacco likes dumping off to the running back. He's an older quarterback, obviously, besides Emmanuel Sanders, an unproven wide receiver core. I just think Phillip Lindsay, it's going to be hard to take the job. It's going to be hard to not give him carries once he comes back. Like, that's just the guy he is. He walks in the room, and you're like, all right, we're going to ease you in, Lindsay. We're going to, hold you to 7 carries. And all of a sudden, all right, we'll give you one more, and he goes for 40 yards. How do you take him off the field? He looks good. Fans are cheering. It's Phillip Lindsay. At 20, I've got Aaron Jones. Here's my issue with Aaron Jones. right? Before we even talk about, some of the great, he's explosive. He can catch the ball. Do I think he's a great pass protector? No, which limits his time on the field. Has it gotten better with that in the offseason? Maybe. I'm not sure. There's a reason why they keep players off the field. Okay. Everybody wanted to free Aaron Jones last year. They wanted, 25, 26, 24 touches a game. Maybe he's not that guy. Like, maybe he's not a bell cow. Maybe he's a 19 to 21 touches a game guy. That's where I think people are making the mistake. Maybe he gets 25, maybe he gets 26, and he gets injured. He's just maybe not built like that. He looks great. He might be like Phillip Lindsay. Yeah, I have them back to back because they kind of remind me of the same guy. Lindsay's obviously more explosive than Jones, but they kind of are the same guy. They're not a gadget back, but they're not a guy that's going to just carry and beat up a defense, right? There are bruising backs that exhaust defenses. Those aren't the guys. They don't exhaust defenses from tackling them. They exhaust defenses from running from them, right? They're fast. They get through the line of scrimmage and they go. But I think asking for, he needs 28 touches a game or 20, he could be I don't think they are that. I think we have to recognize some players for what they are. And if asking more, you could get them injured. I think Aaron Jones will have a great year. Okay. I think the coach will utilize him more, but I'm not in the, there are a lot of people that think Aaron Jones is like a top 10 running back, top 11 running back. I'm not in that category. I'm not in that game. All right. Up next at 19, I've got Donta Freeman, Atlanta Falcons. Again, another injury derailed him. They paid him, so obviously they're going to get him carries back. He's another workload guy. Can he handle it? Everybody said he could handle it, and then next season injured. So I do believe that Atlanta wants to run the ball. That he's going to be involved in their game. I just don't. I think he's going to be on a pitch count. 18, 19, 20 touches a game. Whether those are rushes or catches, maybe they have him on a play pitch count. Okay, but Atlanta is not going to have that money invested in him and not be able to use him, the entirety of it. Again, he kind of falls in the Jones and Lindsay category. They're smaller, more compact. I mean, how does it work? Will Freeman have a great season? I think he has a bounce back year. But what does a bounce back year mean when you didn't play last year? I think he plays well in Atlanta, but I would be cautioned to take him. He's not for me. I understand that people think he's a value in the third round. That's awesome. Every year I watch him, he has a great first half and then tails off. Why is that? Do you guys know? Because he's not a full workload back. So you're going to have to deal with those things. Now, listen, just because he's not he'd be for me in the fourth round. But I need guys in the first 3 rounds that are just going to produce. I need guys that I can set it and forget it and just, all right, well, I'm good to go. Okay, I need guys that are going, there are backs that I like there. There are wide receivers I like there. I don't love him there. I actually, I think I have him where he is because of the offense that he's in. Okay, I'm not sold on, Green Bay's new offense, and Denver's offense makes me fall asleep. Okay, does Joe Flacco help? Maybe. I don't know. He's got to be better than Case Keenum because he's taller. Right? John Elway loves his tall quarterbacks. If they're taller, they're better. We know that. Maybe. Donta Freeman's at 19. Up at 18, I've got Josh Jacobs. And some people are super high on Josh Jacobs and the Raiders. Listen, I think Derek Carr is a much better year. Okay, I think Antonio Brown doesn't really lose a step. I know he's got that foot issue going on now, but I don't believe that, Brown going from Carr to Roethlisberger as he gets the ball when he's double covered all the time. That means if I have a good enough arm and I throw it out there and he's double covered, he's going to catch it. I just don't have the arm. Okay? So with that being said, I think Derek Carr will be just fine because he's an NFL caliber quarterback. Josh Jacobs is coming from a small workload at Alabama. He is a good athlete, and he is going to be the workhorse. But he's never been a workhorse, right? He's kind of been the spell guy for Damian Harris, and he may be the better running back. But I caution you because Alabama running backs, who knows? Their offensive lines have been, outstanding for years, much better than teams that they play. So I know how much Gruden wants to use them. Obviously Mike Mayock, the general manager, has done his homework. I do think Josh Jacobs will have a good year, but I don't think you have to reach for him. Don't do it in the third round. Okay, he's going to be there. Let someone have him, right? This is fantasy football. This is the Raiders, right? They're not all there yet. The only value I see on the Raiders, honestly, is Antonio Brown. And if you're in like 2 quarterback leagues, or even like let's say you took Derek Carr with your last pick, take him. That's fine. Jacobs, you're going to have to reach. And I think Miles Sanders or David Montgomery are going to have just fine years. Okay, Jacobs is not going to be Saquon Barkley. He won't. I'll stake everything I have on it. He'll have a good year. He's not going to have a phenomenal year. All right. In fact, he might break down. That could be a fact. He could, he's not used to it. He could break down. Up next, 17. I've got Derrick Henry. Okay. This is much higher, by the way, than I'd like to even put Derrick Henry. Okay. I think he was phenomenal at Alabama. Obviously, in high school, he was a star. He's come to the NFL, and he complains. He doesn't complain. Okay, he said, I'd be better with more carries. The Titans, they're a bland offense. I'm not a big believer in Mariota. I do believe at this point he's injury prone, and the Titans are going to have to start eventually looking for a quarterback. Okay, Derrick Henry's said that he needed carries. Okay. Is 18 fine? 18 carries is pretty good, right? That's what they did to start last season. It's the same narrative. He started off with 18 carries, game 1, 56 yards. All right, well, the game script wasn't good. We got behind early. We had to start passing it. Game 2, 18 carries, 57 yards. It's not the carries. Okay, I'm releasing on Apple Books. Tomorrow I'll be releasing it. It's my fantasy football guide, and in that guide it tells you about a little bit more about Derrick Henry. That gives you a little bit. It adds flavor to how his season went. Okay, but I don't believe that Derrick Henry needs more carries. I think Derrick Henry needs bigger holes. He's a huge man. I don't think Derrick Henry is. I don't think he's a great running back. I think he's a good running back, but I don't think he doesn't jump cut. He's best against tired defenses. I don't think the carries matter. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I will not be drafting Derrick Henry anywhere. Not even to play around. Not even just screwing around on a funny app. I'm not going to be doing it. I'm out of Derrick Henry because I think he's best against tired defenses. And obviously, when I release the manifesto on Apple Books, you'll find out. 16, Chris Carson. He was quietly good last year. Seattle Seahawks are another team that want to run the ball. Okay. And everybody kind of laughed at them. Before last season started, we all knew they wanted to run the ball. Of course, Seattle, sure. Russell Wilson will have to save you at the end of games. And sometimes he did. Next week, they ran the ball still. Eventually, they're going to have to start passing. They kept running the ball. Chris Carson went for over 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns. He flew very under the radar. But no one wants him this year either. Pete Carroll has stated that he's looked the best player in camp. There are many players that show up to camp. Chris Carson showed up in shape. He wants the job. His teammates like him. I know that Seattle drafted Rashad Penny, but maybe it got Rashad Penny, and all it did was push Carson's button better. Maybe Carson's the guy that nobody really wants to talk about. But so I have him ranked 16th. Right? Could Chris Carson end up a top 10 running back? I think he could. And he does beat defenses up. He doesn't run away from players. He runs into them. He runs through them. Watch the man run. It's like the linebacker made fun of his girlfriend. Every time he smashed, he's throwing elbows. It's like he's thrashing through waves. I've spin moves. He'd throw kicks if he could. Chris Carson is a monster of a man to take down, and eventually teams just get exhausted from him. He's a great fantasy guy, and I believe that he's your, out of all these guys, he's an absolute workhorse. 25 carries a game. Give them to him. Throwing elbows, stiff arms. I'm exhausted watching him run the first half. Chris Carson gets no credit. Right, Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette, Melvin Gordon. Chris Carson will beat the hell out of a defense, and he's got his body in shape to do it. Out of all the guys down here, he's the one that gets no press, and he has the most opportunity right now. He was in Seattle last year, produced pretty well. You think they're not going to run him? You're probably wrong. Okay, so he's probably the safest guy out of all these guys, to produce 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns. Oh, that's fine, right? I'll take that. I got Chris Carson at 16, and I can move him up further if I wanted to. At 15, I've got Damian Williams. I like Damian Williams if he plays the full season. The problem is he's a little banged up already. Andy Reid likes Damian Williams. He says he's the starting running back. And that's what a coach is supposed to say. But I'm of the belief that if you walk into a season a little banged up, a little injured, just something, you're walking down the road, your calf hurts you a little bit, or your ankle hurts you, or you just kind of move your shoulder and it doesn't feel right. That's not going to get better when you have large men trying to kill you on Sundays, which is what Damian Williams is going to have. He's going to have linebackers, cornerbacks flying from his left, flying from his right, trying to kill him on Sundays. And he's already a little banged up in camp where they're not allowed to really hit you, right? He's never started and taken a full workload. He came in last year. He was in Miami. He couldn't take over Kenyon Drake's job. The opportunity is there for him to run the gauntlet. But can he do it? That's a guy. I can move Chris Carson up there. I can move him down. But the reason why he's there is because he has the opportunity. He's my 15 because he has the opportunity and is in the offense. If you've gotten anything out of this video, understand I like running backs that are in good offenses. Because if you're in a bad offense and you're playing behind, you're not going to run the ball. Look at every coach in the NFL. They'll tell you, we want to run the ball. We want to control the clock. We want to control the line of scrimmage. We want to control the game. Then they're down 14-0. And then it's 17. And then they don't score on their first possession after halftime. And all of a sudden, They don't run it anymore. And at the press conference, they go, why did you abandon the run? And he looks at the reporter like he wants to body slam him. He's down 17 that are on good football teams. And listen, I know injuries happen. Offensive lines get banged up. But what teams do you think are going to be good before the year starts? What teams can you bank on? Kansas City's probably going to be one of them. Damien Williams at 15. 14. This will be the last guy I cover, and then we'll do our we'll do 13 through 1 on another video. This guy I'm covering, Marlon Mack, 14, Indianapolis Colts. He wasn't super consistent last year. I think he was just kind of trying to he was starting to finally get comfortable, in his seat, in his NFL chair. Towards the end of last season, the second half, he really started to gallop well. He kind of picked Le'Veon Bell's running style, waited the line, jumped through a spot. That started working for him. Listen, not everybody's bangers and bruisers, right? Some guy like Leonard Fournette looks for running back, and he wants his family to feel the pain after he hits them. That's how Leonard Fournette runs. Ezekiel Elliott finishes runs hard. So there are some guys, and then there are some guys that juke and move. They don't want to. I mean, that guy's just bigger. I'm faster. Why should I run into him? I'll just run away from him. I think Marlon Mack's finally developed his running style. As long as Andrew Luck and that calf question mark doesn't continue into the season, I believe Marlon Mack could give you 10 touchdowns again. Indianapolis is going to move the ball. I don't know if he's necessarily a yards guy. It could be. I think he's a touchdowns guy. I don't think he's super fast. I think he can control parts of the game. Nyheim Hines is going to, be your pass catching back, your scat back type. I wouldn't be afraid of him at the goal line. I think Marlon Mack could give you anywhere from 9 to 11 touchdowns. Indianapolis is going to be around scoring points. Luck threw 39 touchdowns last year. Okay, so he gets you down in that area. And again, I like good football teams. There are players. All these running backs are great. They're in the NFL. Okay, but what situation you live in and you're drafted in, in your coaching situation, your general manager, the situation does matter. Okay, I like Marlon Mack at 14. Is he a better athlete, than Philip Lindsay or Darius Geis? Or let's use Darius Geis. Darius Geis is probably a better running back, better athlete than Marlon Mack. And if you flip situations, Darius Geis would probably go crazy. Miles Sanders is going to be in that type of situation in Philly. David Montgomery is going to be in that type of situation. Darius Geis is as low as he is because of the injury and the question marks in Washington. Marlon Mack at 14 is based on, he had a good last year. He was a little all over the board, but he has Andrew Luck. So if he could start putting games together again, I think he's another guy that could land in your top 10, 7 or 8, Here's the one thing we do know about fantasy football is that the guys that did it last year, there's usually, out of your top 5 running backs, usually you get 2 that return or 3 that return and 2 fall out of that spot. So we're kind of trying to look for guys that can possibly leapfrog and have one of those years. You're looking for opportunity, right? And I'd be happy with taking Marlon Mack as my number 2 running back. Same thing with Damien Williams. I don't like as much. I like him as a flex, and some people love him. Chris Carson's my number 2. I could even probably live with Chris Carson at my 1. If I got Julio Jones and let's say I went Odell Beckham, let's say that's what I did. Let's just, for the argument's sake, I got those 2 guys. They fell to me. I'd be just fine with Chris Carson at my 1 if I had to wait a little bit and taking David Montgomery as my 2. or Miles Sanders or some Lamar Miller even. Right? That's what you need to look at, because now your wide receivers are so set. Right? And Chris Carson is going to carry the ball all day. Guys, I'm Jack Neary. That was the beginning, just the beginning of this fantasy football documentation, as it will. We'll be doing running backs. We'll be doing wide receivers. I want to go over tight ends with you guys, defenses, kickers, quarterbacks, when to take them, when not to take them. We'll see you next time. Keep watching for videos.